Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? I hope you're all well. Please let me know in the comments where you guys are tuning in from, where you are based at, and where you're watching from so I can shout out all your respective cities, counties, and beyond. So, we've got people tuning in from Scotland, from Portland, from Iran, from Michigan, from, it's exploding now, from Tunisia, from Norway, from California, from Germany, from Canada, from the Great Satan, from Vietnam, from Florida, Indonesia, the United States, and just about the entire planet. So let's get right down to it, shall we? And again, before I continue, I should, of course, wish all those who celebrate a Eid Mubarak, a happy Ramadan, and you know, of course, we are all thinking of what is happening in Gaza. And as a matter of fact, I thought we could begin with that. So I've gone ahead and put a few things up here for you. Yeah, so you already know what I'm going to say about him. So again, Eid Mubarak. We'll start out with Blinken, who also wishes you Eid Mubarak. Now, the difference being, I don't think he very much means the words. He's certainly happy dropping bombs on Muslims and Christians during Ramadan and Easter than he is worried about wishing them a good time with their families. Here are some of the other things I wanted to show you how, you know, obviously during Ramadan, people will sit down and break the fast every day. And then now they have several days of celebration. So literally, as I'm speaking to you, it's the first day of Eid. Now in Gaza, I mean, forget celebrating, because just being alive is impossible. It's made impossible by the Israelis. But nevertheless, I'll show you what the Israelis are doing to impede the flow of food, of goods, of humanitarian aid coming into Gaza. Now, obviously, I already did a report about this last week. I showed you in detail this report by Oxfam, how they're taking the trucks down into the Israeli crossing instead of driving them straight into Gaza. But this is an additional report now that's come out, and it's from OCHA, from the UN. The Israelis, they say that they've, you know, this is the day with the highest single number of aid trucks entering Gaza. I mean, the Israelis will tell you anything, right? They'll tell you that they care about human rights while they're killing you. So that's, you know, that's as far as their word goes. Here's what the UN say. The UN say that that's a load of rubbish. They don't agree with the Israelis. Something that frustrates me about the UN is that they'll disagree, but they won't outright call the Israelis liars. They should call them liars, because they are lying. When you are dishonest, you're a liar. This is being dishonest. You know, you can't be in charge of allowing humanitarian trucks into Gaza. And again, the Israelis have no right to be in charge of that anyway. But you can't be running a military checkpoint and then pretend like you don't know how it works. You're being dishonest. You're a liar. Let me show you, for example. This is from the UN. They say in March, an array of access restrictions and denials imposed by Israeli authorities continue to obstruct and limit humanitarian operations throughout Gaza. Israeli authorities have authorized the use of only one primary border crossing, preventing humanitarian assistance or commercial goods from entering directly into northern Gaza, where levels of catastrophic food insecurity and humanitarian needs are most acute. In addition, lengthy inspection processes, fuel shortages resulting from Israeli restrictions, and restrictions on the movement of trucks, convoys, and vetted drivers create significant delays, while congestion at the Kerem Shalom crossing present a major operational bottleneck. So this is the UN corroborating everything that we heard from Oxfam, which is it's a British charity. Just all of the same things. You got Israelis standing in the way, so the trucks, instead of driving straight, and when I say straight ahead, I literally mean straight ahead, literally, in the physical sense. The Israelis stand in the way, and they redirect the truck south. So now you're going on a detour. You're going on a detour, which is nice if you like driving, but people are waiting for food. They're dying. They're waiting for medicine. So you're going on a detour. Then you have to throw out things from the truck. You got to repack the truck. Then you got to wait for the other trucks to be harassed. And then maybe you get through. And then if you get through, more bottlenecks, more obstacles that you have to negotiate. Let's look at this, for example. The Israeli authorities' designation of the El Rashid coastal road as the primary route for humanitarian movement between Gaza's southern and northern areas has caused significant delays. The majority of humanitarian convoys traveling northward must navigate high security risk areas and a single Israeli checkpoint on the Salah ad-Din road, leading to increased road congestion, substantial delays, and exacerbated logistical constraints. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that, let's look at the map. As usual, I brought up a map. Now look, the Salah ad-Din road, I know it's exactly this one, right? It's the main avenue. Well, it's bigger than an avenue, but it's the main road that helps you go up and down Gaza, okay? Now the World Central Kitchen convoy, they weren't traveling on this road. They were traveling on the coastal road, right? The Rashid, here, there you go. It's the El Rashid one. So if I can only amend or add to the UN's paragraph, I'm not just going to call this road congested or a road that adds substantial delays and exacerbated logistical constraints. I'm going to call it a deadly road for people bringing in humanitarian aid, in other words, humanitarian workers or healthcare workers as well. It's deadly. You get drone striked 3 times, right? So why don't we go ahead and amend the report by adding that? I feel like it's a relevant bit, no? So not only are you slow, you can get killed yourself. Never mind the Palestinians, right? You'll get killed yourself if you come in with your fancy European passport. Israeli authorities continue to impose constraints, limiting humanitarian actors' use of the central Salah ad-Din road, which could potentially offer a more efficient and potentially more secure option, enhancing the efficiency and effectiveness of aid distribution. We don't need to go and read a novel about this. It's very simple. The Israelis are starving people, and they're making life difficult for the people trying to feed Palestinians who are in Gaza. So there's no food to break the fast with. There's no food during the Eid, during the Ramadan celebrations. There's no food at all. You're screwed. There's no food during Easter. There's a blanket starvation for everyone. For everyone. The Israelis are they're very, how shall we say? They're very democratic in that way, aren't they? They're very egalitarian, you know? They starve everyone equally. They don't discriminate between Muslim and Christian. You just starve. You're a Palestinian, just starve, right? They're very democratic in that way, the Israelis. How benevolent of them. They continue to grace us and humble us with their blanket starvation. One can only strive to become as much of a dictator as Netanyahu. Yes? So Blinken and people like him can go and shove their greetings where the sun don't shine. I'll show you another clip now that will make you laugh about Blinken. He was called the devil to his face, and I don't think he quite got... I think it was lost on him. He didn't quite grasp what was being said. Okay, here, one of you actually sent me this clip. It was Gold Alchemist. Thank you, Gold Alchemist. And yes, I had many of the clips that you sent about the resistance ready to pull up. I'll show them to you in a second. So let's look at this video. This is from, well, from yesterday, actually. Yeah. Here's Blinken being called the devil.
Albania has recognized Palestine long ago. And to give you a little background, Albania was a communist dictatorship. And our dictator was one of the closest friends and allies of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, and of Yasser Arafat. And on the other hand, our regime was very viciously against three major devils: the United States,
he just nods and he's like, yeah, I accept it. Let me play that again.
United States, Soviet Union, and Israel. So, in other words, American imperialism, Soviet social imperialism, and Jewish Zionism. But this country, on the other hand, is the only country in Europe that had more Jews after the Second World War than before. And it's the only country where Jews didn't fly out, but flew in to be protected. And as it
in Europe, yes. I'll just remind you that the #1 country where Jews went to was Palestine. And then they turn around and say Arabs hate us. Well, why the fuck did you go and live where the Arabs are then if they hate you so much? You lying sacks of you know what.
It is very well shown in Yad Vashem. It's a country where the Nazis didn't succeed to get a single Jew. This is the background.
Anyway, it's just a funny clip I wanted to show you. I actually just saw it a few minutes ago myself. I love it. It's so funny. It's so funny. It's so good. This is one of those clips that, you know, you got to play every couple of months just to have a laugh. This is really funny. It's really funny. I don't have the rest of it. I don't know what Blinken said afterwards. I don't think it really matches. But there you go. He acknowledges the role. He's like standing there and he just nods his head. Yes. Paul says this should be on CNN. It should be on CNN. We should all broadcast it. Let me continue and show you the main story. Let's continue to the main story because it is quite it's quite Israeli. If you catch my drift. So the Israelis have gone and murdered the 3 sons of Ismail Haniya, who's basically the head of the Politburo in Hamas, or the political leader, you could say, of Hamas, and he lives in Qatar. Now, for a long time, there was this phrase that the Israelis would go ahead and repeat that, oh, well, you know, he's living in a hotel, he's like lounging about in a hotel in Doha. Well, that's obviously not true because he's lost about 60 family members now since October 7th, including now his 3 sons. Okay? So here they are. You can see on the screen. And not only 3 sons, but also 4 grandchildren. So the Israelis, what they did is they went ahead and they launched missiles, 2 missiles from a drone at a car that they were traveling in. And I'll just remind you that today Muslims celebrate the first day of Eid, of celebrations. Okay, so it's the end of Ramadan. It's meant to be the most special, the most important part of Ramadan, and they're being killed. It's like if you would go and murder someone on Christmas Eve. It's the exact same thing, right? So just think of that. They're in a car. It's a family, basically a family visit, and they're murdered during a family visit. Now you tell me what is military about that? Because the Israelis, if you understand what Israelis are, you understand what the IDF is, then this behavior makes sense to you. Because the Israelis, they are They're evil. They're evil. When you understand how the IDF came to exist, that it began with the Irgun, that it began with the Lehi or the Stern Gang, as it's also known, that it began with the Haganah. These are terrorist groups, and then they pulled together and became the IDF. Okay, I'm simplifying a bit, but it's the same principle. And many of these leaders in these terrorist groups became Israeli prime ministers. All right, Begin is one of them, for example. And they were wanted terrorists in the UK till they died, till the I don't know when it was, but basically, you know, you have Yitzhak Shamir, and also Begin, who are wanted in the UK because they killed dozens of British officers. And they always did this from the beginning, since before Israel even existed. They went to Palestine. These are a bunch of Eastern European Jews. They have no connection to this land. Zero, none. They're invaders. It's like if I go now to China and I just start gunning people down saying, no, this is my house. I was here 3,000 years ago. Look, it says in a book. the most psychotic crap you have ever heard in your life. So that's who the Israelis are. They murder people. They even murdered people who tried to find peace deals. You know, when this is, again, before you actually had a proper, quote unquote, state of Israel, if you even believe that it's a thing. You had diplomats who would try and sort out agreements, and the Israelis would just go and knock them off because it's not suitable to their goals. They would prefer war than to have diplomacy. Lo and behold, how is this any different? They're murdering the children and the grandchildren of one of the top leaders in Hamas during the Eid, during the Eve of Ramadan. What is this besides sabotage? It's only sabotage. It's the equivalent of the Swedish politician that they tried, Count Bernadotte, I think his name was, right? The Swedish diplomat. He was basically trying to mediate between them. Yeah, Bernadotte was his name. They also murdered him because peace wasn't a good option. So, you know, I'm just giving you an analogy. The Israelis murdered him because they preferred war against the Arabs than to finding a peaceful solution, all right? Because they want all the land. They're not interested in diplomacy. They want to take all of the land. And so now Netanyahu is doing the same sort of thing, right? The analogy is not between Count Bernadotte and, Haniyeh, okay? I keep thinking of Yahya Sinwar. It's not Yahya Sinwar, it's Haniyeh. The analogy is not between them. The analogy is the Israelis 70, 80 years ago sabotaging peace the same way they're doing it now. Do you understand? There's no difference. And so this is a clip that they published of him receiving the news that his grandchildren and his children have been murdered.
الله يسهل عليهم الله يسهل عليهم يعني ان شاء الله ربنا يسهل يلا ليش كمل ربنا يسهل ان شاء الله ربنا يرزقك ان شاء الله بالباب.
So I can tell you what happened is basically he was at a hospital and he was visiting people who had been injured, who were transferred from Gaza into Qatar. And you can see he's quite cool. He has a cool air about him for someone that's being told that their family members have been killed. Let me once again, I'll explain this to you. It's not because he is, happy to receive the news, but for Muslims to be martyred is a great honor, right? It's a great honor, just like you would have, again, if I can find an analogy, a rather crude analogy. It's, for example, for someone who is a Viking to go to Valhalla. It's a crude analogy, but it serves the purpose. It's an honor, but it's still painful, of course. You know, the Israelis have a lot of propaganda where they want to make it sound like, oh my God, look at him, he's so he's so bloodthirsty and evil. He will even sacrifice his own children because he's power hungry. This is Israeli propaganda, okay? As a matter of fact, you have many people in the West who've been trying to figure out how Palestinians have remained so tough during this genocide, and they understand it's because of their faith. And so you have many people who are renewing interest in the Quran because they can see this kind of strength that you see in this video that many other people in Gaza also have. And remember that the total now, I think, is 60 people in his family. Many of you watching right now, I know, have lost family in Gaza, and numbers like that. Many of you that I've met in person have told me that as well. So you know, it's not uncommon, and you can't say that he didn't give as much as anyone else who is in Gaza, right? That his geographical location of being in Qatar somehow makes it as if he you know, is living in luxury or something. No, this is not true. He doesn't have to deal with some of the tragedy that people in Gaza have to deal with. That's obviously correct, but you know, to say otherwise is not correct.
Hamas leader Ismail Haniya on Wednesday confirmed that 3 of his...
Here, let me show you. This is from earlier. You have the Turkish president who called him up. I'll play the clip and then we'll talk a bit.
تسلم شكر الله سعيك تسلم
وأتمنى من الله سبحانه وتعالى صبرا جميلا ويتحولهم لشهداء يقبلهم شهداء نساء عنده بإذن الله.
شكر الله سعيكم. تفضل.
وطبعا أنت ذكرت كل ما يجب أن يقال في هذا الشأن سمعناها. وأدعو الله أن يزيد صبركم وصبرنا.
آمين.
أرجو أن تقدر تحياتي إلى كل الأشقاء باسم شعبي.
بارك الله فيك سيادة الرئيس، وشكر الله سعيكم، وشاكرين لهذا الاتصال الذي يعبر عن ضمير هذه الأمة في تركيا وفي خارج تركيا.
Cumhurbaşkanı, öncelikli olarak telefonunuzdan dolayı ben size de teşekkür ediyorum. Allah sizlerden razı olsun. Bu aramanız hem Türkiye'nin hem ümmetin.
So you obviously, it's an interpreter. Erdogan does not speak Arabic, but the reason why he's calling him, I don't think he's the only one, obviously, but you know, when we talk about Turkey, Erdogan is Muslim Brotherhood, politically speaking, and so is Hamas. Now, obviously, you know, to various extents. If we look at Erdogan and his policies, I mean, the guy's been feeding the Israelis oil the whole time. They announced some new sanctions now, some limited, you know, arms exports control and other exports controls. But Azerbaijan and Turkey have been feeding the Israelis all the oil that they want, and among other things. But that's a video for another time. I just wanted to show you people that are expressing their, you know, their sympathies and giving their condolences. You also have the Houthis who did so as well. I'll try and look it up for you. For some reason, they love to ban or rather censor posts. But I'll show you also another thing in a second. I just wanted to kind of to give you the. Yeah, because I've got some posts ready for you, but they censor them on Twitter, so I have to go and find alternative sources for them. So give me a second. This is just first of all from Bukhaiti, who is from the Houthis, okay, and he's a great guy. I love him. He's really one of the best. And you can see here he says in this post, essentially he's saying, you know, our sincere condolences to the brave Mujahid. Ismail Yahya and sorry, again I'm thinking of Yahya Sinwar. Ismail Haniya, head of the political bureau of Hamas, for the martyrdom of his 3 sons and 2 of his grandchildren. It's now 4 grandchildren, but he tweeted this a few hours ago. in a treacherous Israeli raid on their car. Such a sacrifice is not strange to Hamas leaders nor a surprise to them, as hundreds of them and their relatives were martyred, led by the movement's founder, Sheikh Ahmed Yassin. Yes. So he was also struck in his car by a drone. Nothing changes. Now, the Israelis, they went in. This is what's so funny, is that this is, again, acknowledgement of an assassination and a war crime. Because they know the children are in the vehicle, and they killed them anyway. And there's no need to kill them. There is no need to kill them. Look at this, for example. The Israelis admitting the Air Force struck his children, Amir, Muhammad, and Hazm, but they call them operatives. Now, again, I've no doubt that his children, his 3 sons, were affiliated with Hamas to some degree. There's nothing surprising about that. But take everything the Israelis say with a giant kilo of salt, not a pinch of salt, because they lie about everyone. They'll kill a baby and say it was a Hamas operative, right? Yeah. So, I mean, they literally did. You had children in the car and they killed them, and then they say, it's okay, it's acceptable, it's collateral. And that article I read to you the other day, the Israelis had soldiers telling the magazine that for them it's acceptable to kill 100, 200, or 300 people to get a Hamas commander. So, for them it's nothing. It's nothing to kill for children. This is okay for them because they think that they're God. So this is a provocation. You need to understand that when the Israelis are killing his family, they think that they can try and influence the negotiations afterwards. But they're sorely mistaken. The Israelis, actually, if they had any brains, and again, I'm not talking about, militarily, whether they are strong militarily. I'm talking about politics, about strategy. These people have no brain. They're idiots. Right now, Gaza is in a position of strength. Why do I say this? I say this because the Israelis have destroyed their international image, if they had one. They are now subject to more and more pressure from the US. The Israelis are losing on the battlefield. So they're not just losing against Hamas, they're losing against Hezbollah, they're losing against Yemen, against Syria, against Iran, against Iraq. This is not a joke to be fighting on 6 fronts. This is not a joke at all. They're losing economically because they have to put all these settlers in hotels. They have to also subsidize the 18% of the Israeli workforce that aren't coming into work since October 7th. All the businesses that are shut down in the West Bank and elsewhere and across quote unquote Israel. They are losing so badly. For Palestinians, for the people in Gaza, for someone like Haniyeh, it's like his position is, you've already killed 60 people in my family. What are you going to do that's worse than that? You can't do anything. I'm the one with control now. And I'm going to bleed you dry, figuratively and literally, in, every way that I can think of. Economically, militarily, I'm going to screw you. You have no bargaining position. You have no bargaining chips, and you're in no position to start imposing demands. It's like, I'm already screwed. I've lost everything. What are you going to do that's worse than this? You can't. You killed my sons. You killed my grandchildren. Who are you going to kill? Children I don't even have? People that don't exist? So this is the position of Hamas. And it's not just the position of Hamas. I'm talking about the resistance collectively, right? Same thing with Iran. With Iran, it's like you blew up the memorial for Qasem Soleimani in January. You killed 75 plus people. I think it's way higher. So forgive me. I think the number is actually much higher than that. But I know it was at least 75 the last time I looked. You then killed another a dozen security personnel the other week. You're attacking us left and right, but we've got you in a chokehold right now. So you can keep trying to punch your way out, but we're the ones calling the shots. Okay, that's the position of the resistance. The Israelis, they want to keep the war going. Obviously, Netanyahu wants to keep the war going because the second the war stops, he's going to get sent to prison. And the Israelis will then try and rehabilitate their own image by saying, well, yes, maybe there was a bit of a genocide, but we didn't do it. It was Netanyahu and his ultra right-wing government. Like as if when the Israelis had left-wing politicians, they weren't living on stolen land. Tell me, did they give back that stolen land? Did any of this happen? Oh, right. Sharon demolished a few settlements. I don't care about the settlements. Is the country given back? No. A left-wing Israeli lives on just as much stolen land as a right-wing Israeli. I'm sorry, this is the same thing. They're drinking the same stolen water from Syria, the same stolen water from Gaza. It's the same result in the end. So I'm not going to get into semantics. The Israelis will try and rehabilitate their image. So some of them want to end the war just so they can get back to the status quo, which is let's live on the stolen land with the stolen resources, and we'll keep the Palestinians at an arm's distance and make sure they don't get a country. For Netanyahu, he just wants to stay in power and avoid prison. So they all have their own motives. But at the end of the day, right now, as I said during the last streams, it's not in the interest of the resistance to give the Israelis anything. The only condition for a hostage exchange would be, for example, if they were to free all the Palestinian prisoners. Me personally, I would demand that they even free Georges Abdallah, who is locked up in France, that they go and free even Julian Assange. I don't care. I put his name on the table. You know, you have to make giant demands. Right now is the time. The Israelis are in a losing position. They have nothing to offer. And the Palestinians have gone through 75 years of this stuff. So it's not like they are going to get some grand mercy from the Israelis, who are known only for their brutality. I mean, who behaves like this? Who behaves like this? The Americans, maybe. That's it. The Americans and the Israelis behave like this. No wonder they go together like hand in glove. You know, drone striking children in a car because you don't like one of the people who is their grandfather and lives in another country. What is wrong with you? What does that accomplish? If you think that this was about his 3 sons, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. They want to get back at Haniyeh, who's in Qatar. They want to hit back at him because they're mad that they don't have any bargaining position. Simple as that. Simple as that. And I'll just show you one last clip. This is from Hamas, from Dr. Bassem Naim, and you know him. He's been on the show a couple of times, and he's also he was actually before the health minister for Palestine. I don't mean just in Gaza. I mean all of Palestine, and then just in Gaza. So he's been health minister for both, and he's also now in this interview that they did with him. Let me just play the clip. You're gonna laugh, honestly. His response to this whole thing was really funny. Again, just so you know, he's also from the political bureau with Hamas, right? So he's from this. He's also in the same section as Haniya. Here, I think you should be able to see it now.
These have confirmed that they indeed were behind this assassination. What do you think the message is that Israel is trying to send out, and to whom?
Thank you very much. First of all, I have to emphasize one point before responding to your question, that such actions cannot be taken or done except by someone who is deranged, mentally retarded. It is not. These are not the actions of a civilized state or a civilized army. If they think that they are negotiating with us through killing our children or our wives, after failing to achieve any of their goals by the tanks and by the airstrikes or around the table, the negotiation table, they are delusional, and we guarantee or we emphasize that they will not achieve any of their goals by such horrific crimes.
I love him. His thing is like, I'll answer your question, but I have to say something first. Only someone who is deranged and mentally retarded assassinates children. Yes, that's a good way to put it. But you see, he proceeds to outline the same thing. Is that you're not going to achieve anything through assassination when you fail to achieve it through the negotiating table or on the negotiating table or at the negotiating table, right? So it's a very simple, solid point. And he is he's just a skilled politician as he is a doctor. I'll end with that. And there are many people in like I said, many people watching right now. Many of you who are watching. Many people who are in Gaza and around the world who've lost tons of family, and they're not ready to just throw all of that away or give the Israelis an easy win. As a matter of fact, I think the demand the Israelis keep making, where they say the war will end once the Palestinians release the hostages. Really, says who? Maybe let's flip it. Let's flip it around. Why don't we reverse positions and say, for example, that the hostages will be released once Israel is dismantled and all of you go back to your countries and you stop colonizing. This is also a great demand, right? Since we are just, people are just going to start making demands and with no authority. The Israelis are really funny. They are so funny. They suck politically. They have no strategy. They have lost. They've been spanked and spanked 50 times over on the battlefield. They are so screwed. They are so deluded. Who the fuck are they to start giving out demands about negotiations and start assassinating people? That's it. Let me show you. I'll give you these as an example. Some of you sent them to me actually while we were getting ready. Okay, so I'll just play them to you, and then we can analyze. These are clips from the front lines. Again, I have to thank Gold Alchemist in particular, who was feeding them to me as the chat was cooking and heating up. And then, of course, we'll talk about the Christians in Palestine and in the Middle East, because this is a personal issue. Before any of that, I will read to you some of your own notes and questions. And of course, I'll give you an update about the figures from Gaza. We have a donation on PayPal. Again, this is from Jerry. Thank you very much, Jerry. And we have one here on PayPal from Sadek, who says, "Thank you for your excellent journalism. You are the best. Keep up the great work." Thank you. You're very kind. Sorry for the swearing, but thank you also to Ellen and from Doctor. And we have Aziz, who joined on Patreon. So I will play them a crab dance momentarily. And we have another donation on PayPal. This one is from Khaled. Thank you to all of you. I'm very grateful to you. And I have to repeat this again because it's now part of the live stream, and basically the Israelis managed to demonetize the channel, and they're very proud of themselves, I'm sure, because they love censorship. The Israelis, their only policies, they like killing people and censoring them. Because they don't want to be found out by the world. They don't want people to see their true colors. So they censor and they kill. That's all they're good at. That's the only thing they're good at, right? The most evil fascist business. So they've demonetized the channel, and I need you guys to please donate if you can, because that's how I make a living. I go live, I do my thing. There's no deluxe content or something like that. It is what it is. I want it accessible to everyone worldwide, and that's part of the great thing, that when we start the live stream, all of you are tuning in from around the world, and I love that. So I want everything to remain free, and if you're able to donate, then thank you very much. So let me give you the latest figures. So again, this is the 11th of April, 2024. We have the latest figures from Gaza. 33,482 Palestinians killed. Of that number, 14,520 are children, and 31 children have now died of malnutrition or dehydration as a result of the Israeli siege. We have 76,049 people that have been injured because of the Israelis, and in terms of journalists, 140 journalists killed, and we also have 177 UN staff members killed, hundreds of healthcare workers killed, all since October 7th. Again, it's a shocking affair. And in the West Bank, we have 4 Palestinians that were injured today by an armed settler attack near Ramallah. And in total, since October 7th, 460 Palestinians killed in the West Bank by Israeli settlers. And the number of Palestinians arrested is over 9,000 in the West Bank, where there's no Hamas and no nothing, right? Funny thing is, though, that there is Hamas support. You can definitely bet that Hamas support has gone up since October 7th all over Palestine. Actually, since 2021. Since 2021, when they attacked the Aqsa Mosque, when the Israelis attacked the Aqsa Mosque. And we had that war as well. Once again, like I said, the Israelis are losing. They don't know what they're doing. We have a donation here from Abdi. Thank you very much. And we have another one as well on PayPal. And this one is from Daniel, who says, keep fighting the good fight. Most certainly. And I have a crab dance also for Aziz, which I'll play. And then we'll continue with the rest of the segments. Some very big ones that we haven't touched on.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome.
Thank you.
والله في كلاب بصراحة يعني ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro.
And then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me?
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large.
we got him.
Because I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up. Disgusting!
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway. We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Why you text Sender? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it! I yield my time! Fuck you!
Why indeed. Thank you to Muhammad for the donation, and we also got a few on Rumble from one is from Gucci, who says, "Bravo Richard, well said. Keep freeing the minds, my brother. I can't wait to shake your hand. One day will be a real honor." You're very kind. And we have one here from Armenia who says, "Richard, the Israelis have been attempting to evict Armenians from their land and neighborhood in Jerusalem. Please cover this if possible so that more people know about the situation." Well, I'm very glad you brought that up. I was actually going to talk about this in a second with the Christians in Palestine, because the Armenian quarter, which you're referring to, is basically you know, the settlers, they like to blame this on settlers or extremist settlers, but the Israeli government allows this because they want ultimately all of Jerusalem to be stolen, right? And we know that because they annexed Jerusalem illegally, they allow these attacks to happen. It's nothing new, but now it's worse than ever. And they're doing it with under the guise of, you know, well, they're taking advantage of the fact everyone's attention is on Gaza, right? So it's something that definitely needs to have its own video. So, you know, I thank you for reminding me, and I'm going to talk about it in a second now anyway. So right, here we go. So you have an interview that was conducted recently by Tucker Carlson with a Palestinian priest who I like very much. His name is Muntar Isaac. And, you know, I'm happy they talked about this because I've been trying to raise the issue of Christians in the Middle East for a long time. And I made a video just, over a week ago for Easter. I made one during Christmas and in between, of course. And it's nice to see people like Tucker Carlson finally wake up and find their voice. But there are many like myself who've been talking about this for a long time. And we're going to continue to do that now as well. So I thought we could pick some random parts and just watch together. And then I'll, of course, go into more detail about this. Because it's a personal topic. So let us proceed and see how the Israelis treat Christians. Because remember that the Christians, or so-called Christians in the United States, the evangelicals over there, they use them as it's a voter base that they need in order to sustain the money, the cash flow that goes to the Israelis. And it's extraordinarily hypocritical, to say the least.
Politicians, Congress staff, or even pastors and influential pastors, is how little they know about the reality on the ground. And their knowledge of the situation here seems to be very, very shallow. Yet they hold very strong opinions. And oftentimes these opinions are shaped by political parties' position, the United States' position, and not really based on a learned opinion that's based on facts, on being here, visiting, talking, investigating, and knowing the facts. And to
simply put, Father, if I may interject, they don't know what they're talking about. Yes.
me, the problem with all of that is it comes across with very strong opinions and decisions that impact our lives. Many times I wish to tell not just the congressmen, but the pastors themselves who support them, do you know that your lobbying, your positions, even your sermons have direct consequences on our lives? Tucker, in this war, there was pastors who openly called, for example, to turn Gaza into a parking lot. Now, let's remember, there are not just, the many innocent people, the majority of, Gaza people, civilians, innocent children, but also there are our siblings in Christ. We have relatives and friends in Gaza, and here you have a pastor with influence calling for the total destruction of.
Yeah, it's that this is what Jesus said. If you go to chapter whatever, it says turn Gaza into a parking lot, right? It's really shocking. I mean, I'm going to be much more colorful than Father Isaac, because these people really get on my nerves. They dress up and they go to church on Sunday, and then Monday morning they're bombing Gaza. That about sums it up, right? So they know nothing about Christianity. As a matter of fact, they are the number one killers of Christians. I mean, who else is dropping bombs on Christians in Syria, in Iraq, in Palestine. Besides, do you have to be a Christian to not get bombed or bombed? I mean, what is this criteria? But since these people like to call themselves that, you know, it's worth exploring, right? It's certainly worth exploring, because you also have people in Congress like Ilhan Omar, you know, who calls herself a Muslim and pretends that she's oppressed because she's a Muslim woman, but she has given Israel billions of dollars. Yes, she gave them money in 2021. After they had bombed Gaza, 2 months after they bombed Gaza, a so-called Muslim woman. So yeah, we have to talk about these hypocrites. We have to talk about these hypocrites. Let me skip to another part just so we can, you know, skim through it.
Some of it is theology. Some of it is the theology of Christian Zionism that teaches, for example, that Christians must support Israel, because the Bible teaches that. And oftentimes that is part of a larger theology of the end times, in which they view the presence of Jews in the land as preparing for the second coming of Christ. They see it as a fulfillment of prophecy, not realizing again what that means on the ground. I always say it's as if the land was empty to them. They are excited about certain events without understanding the consequences of these events on real lives. The irony is that many of these positions actually believe, and many evangelical leaders believe, that at the end times, and after Jews are gathered in Palestine, 2/3 of them will be massacred, and only for the other third to convert to Christianity. And somehow they consider that a Jewish-friendly theology.
Yeah, right. You know, this is, if you don't want to get all the Jews in the world into Palestine and burn 2/3 of them, then you're an anti-Semite, right? That's very logical. And Jesus said this when he was preaching. He said, you should go and kill people so I come back. Remember that? Yeah, neither do I. I mean, have you ever heard of a bunch of BS? I mean, if Zionism is bad, Christian Zionism is even more trippy and ridiculous, even bigger of a scam than Zionism, which is really saying something, because, you know, we all know what Zionism is and how bad it is. So for something to be worse than that, it's really got to be bad. And I said it, Christian Zionism is right there, because this is deranged. It's deranged. I mean, do I really have to sit here and like go, you know, explain this? It's deranged. And what I was surprised that most people in the Middle East, who, you know, Christians, don't actually support this. Go and find an Arab Christian in the Middle East who supports Christian Zionism or whatever they're calling it, and you'd be hard pressed to do so. I guarantee you, who actually supports it. You'd be hard pressed. This is a Western thing. It's a Western position. It's a front. It's like the Crusades. You know, it's like, okay, we got to find some reason to actually go to this strategic place that sits right between Europe, Asia, and Africa, and has all these resources, and is so special because it's the cradle of civilization. Oh yeah, it just so happens God told us to go there. What a surprise, right? Here we are. And then 1,000 years later, oh, it just so happens that, you know, we got to bring all these Jews here and something Zionism. Yeah, we have to be here. How convenient.
Don't get me wrong, I am for Christians and Jews, just like I'm for all religions coming together, understanding one another. But there is something very problematic when we make a certain religious group as an object in our theology and even eschatology, and relate to them accordingly, again, without really understanding what is happening on the ground, without understanding even the complexity of Israel as a state, how secular it is, but even how much it is oppressing Palestinians, breaking the international law, committing sometimes, you know, human rights abusing documented against Palestinians, including Palestinian Christians. To me, Christians should be for peace. And again, I wish you were investing all of this energy and money in initiatives that bring peace, not continuing to support Israel unconditionally without holding them.
you want to see some Christians? I'll show you some Christians, some badass Arab Christians. Okay, here let's take a look at this video. I put them all together for you. Yeah, so you can see them all in one shot. So we can go to school together. This is published March 31st this year, okay? It was published on March 31st, and here are a couple of Arab Christians, okay? Let's go through them one by one, okay? So again, these are not all necessarily Palestinian, but they're from the Levant, and they are a mix of Palestinian, Syrian, Lebanese. I mean, again, for me, there's no difference. It's the same thing. So, but I still wanted to tell you about that. Okay. So, right there we have, for example, Wadia Haddad in the top left. I mean, one of the most crucial Palestinian resistance fighters from the PFLP, right, from the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. And he's a Christian. Okay, remember the PFLP, these are the ones who started hijacking planes. Okay? Not the only ones, they're not all, remember, I'm not talking about like this group is only Christian. No, I'm just showing you how the Palestinian resistance throughout history has key figures who are also Christian. It's not which makes it secular in the end, if you know what I mean, right? Because if you have both these groups working together and it's an anti-colonial movement, the religion plays no part. But I still want to show you, because of the Christian Zionism, to counter that nonsense that they spew in the West. So that's Wadia Haddad on the top left, and then we have Ghassan Kanafani, very famous writer, very famous poet. Do you know what happened to him? They murdered him and his niece in their car with the car bomb. Like I told you, the Israelis have never changed. They are murdering, brutal, savage people. They murder babies, children, just like that. If it suits their political goals, they'll kill another Jew even. And they have done this many times throughout their history. Before there was anything called Israel, if there was someone who was anti-Zionist, they go and shoot them in the head. There are actual cases of them doing this in Palestine, right? They go up to you and just pop you in the head like that if you're anti-Zionist. So this is how they are. They have not changed. Then we have George Habash right here, where my mouse is, number 3. Again, legendary resistance fighter. You know, he conceded also that, well, the PFLP and the PLO, you know, they did it their way, and for one reason or another, they weren't able to it's not they didn't achieve anything, don't get me wrong, but he basically said that Hamas and Hezbollah and the groups that you have today, they seem to be doing something right, and he meant that in a positive way, right? So he's also you know, from the PFLP, founding member, and I think he was originally a doctor, right? Right here on the far right, top right, you have Bishop Capucci. So you know, he was Syrian, and he got in all sorts of trouble, and he gave weapons to the Palestinians, to the Palestinian resistance. He transported weapons for them and guns, and you know, the Israelis hated him, and he died peacefully, I think, in Rome afterwards, in the Vatican. So he's a Catholic. And then down here you have bottom left, Bishop Atallah. He's still alive. I'm going to play you a video in a second of him. Here it is. Listen to what he says.
التوحيدية الإبراهيمية الثلاث، وهي المدينة التي تحتضن أهم مقدساتنا المسيحية والإسلامية. الفلسطينيون المسيحيون والمسلمون في القدس يعانون من الاحتلال، يعانون من قمعه وظلمه واستبداده وبطشه. الاحتلال يعاملنا في القدس وكأننا ضيوف، وكأننا غرباء في مدينتنا، وهذا تجسيد لسياسة الأبرتايد الممارسة بحق أبناء شعبنا في القدس بشكل خاص وفي فلسطين بشكل عام. ولكننا سنبقى في القدس مدافعين عن مقدساتنا وأوقافنا ورافضين لسياسات الاحتلال. لن نستسلم. سيبقى شعارنا دوما الحرية والكرامة لشعبنا الفلسطيني. مقدساتنا ستبقى لنا، القدس ستبقى لنا، ونحن نرفض الإجراءات الاحتلالية ونرفض القرارات الأمريكية الجائرة والتي تأتي في سياق دعم السياسة الإسرائيلية الاحتلالية في مدينة القدس. بعد أيام يحتفل المسيحيون في مشارق الأرض ومغاربها بعيد الميلاد، وسوف تزدان شوارع وساحات المدن الأوروبية والعالمية بالأنوار والأشجار والزينات إلى آخره. أنا أود أن أذكر المسيحيين في كل أرجاء العالم بأنه لا معنى لاحتفالكم بالعيد إذا لم تلتفتوا إلى فلسطين التي هي أرض الميلاد والأرض التي منها انطلقت الرسالة المسيحية إلى مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. مغارة الميلاد في بيت لحم، النور الحقيقي نور الميلاد سطع في بيت لحم، وبالتالي نداؤنا نوجهه إلى كل الكنائس المسيحية شرقا وغربا بضرورة أن تدافع عن فلسطين، عن أطفال فلسطين، عن قضية فلسطين. فليكن شعارنا في عيد الميلاد الحرية لفلسطين ولشعب فلسطين.
There you go. This is a direct message for all the Christian Zionists, so they get their heads screwed on straight, right? Again, going back to the photo, Daniel, I think Al-Hamama, his name was, he was martyred in 2021. Then we have here Hanan Ashrawi. She's not into armed resistance, but she's a resistance fighter in the figurative and spiritual sense, and in her actions, of course, because not all resistance has to be armed. And she's a very famous Palestinian politician and woman. And we have here on the bottom right Georges Abdallah, who is in prison in France, and who, as I told you a few weeks ago, he was denied parole, I think 9, 10, 11 times, even though he served out most of, he was set to be released. So the sentence was declared served, but they wouldn't release him because Victoria Nuland and Hillary Clinton picked up the phone. So these people in this photo that I put together, I put them there because they represent how people really feel. How Christians in the region, in Syria, in Greater Syria, which includes Lebanon and Palestine, how they really feel about Zionism. And it's a loud and resounding no from them and from me. And anyone who says otherwise has no idea what they're talking about and should not be listened to. They are frauds, they are ignorant, they are liars. They have no idea. They have no dogs in the race or dogs in the game. They don't know what it's like to actually live under Israel's jackboot, right? So they have no skin in the game and they shouldn't be listened to. You have some Israelis, some Zionists that I wanted to show you what they were writing because it really made me laugh. They were criticizing the interview that I showed you. And the one between Father Isaac and Tucker Carlson, and I just want to add some things because they really expose their bias so well. One of them is from Breitbart, I believe, and give me a second to show you. So it's a series. It's a series of tweets, and I don't want to go through the whole thing. We'll just go through it briefly. But let's see here, for example, this one named Polak, okay? And he basically tries to explain why Tucker Carlson and the priests have no idea what they're talking about, but he does, right? He does. So he starts going through this ridiculous logic where he explains that Christians used to be a majority in Bethlehem, but now they're a minority. And he says it's because they've been Islamizing the city. Really? What does that mean? Since when do Arab Christians have a problem with Islam? I don't understand this. Their neighbor is a Muslim, right? So, first of all, how is that a problem? Number two, Father Isaac is from Bethlehem. The guy literally lives, works in Bethlehem. And you want to come here and act like you understand this issue better than him, an American Zionist Jew? What qualifies you to talk about Bethlehem? Number three, the reason that you have less and less Christians in Bethlehem is because they're leaving due to the Israelis. But he left that part out. He left that part out. You know, I can sit here and look up the documentary, and you can watch me look up the documentary of a woman in Bethlehem, how they built a wall around her, you know, an ugly piece of crap, so the Israelis can snipe people from their towers. And you know, other Palestinian Christians from Bethlehem talking about how they left and they're sick of it and they can't take it under occupation. But he knows best, this American Zionist Jew. He knows how Christians feel, you know? It's because of the Muslims. Just blame the Muslims as usual. What a clown. And then the best thing at the bottom, apologies for the typos, I'm on a flight to Israel. So he has all these points. He's got like 10 different points, and then at the end he says, I'm on a flight to Israel. Yeah, I figured you were. Remember also, Pollack is it's obviously a Jewish name. You can tell it's a European Jewish name. You also had Pollard, which is different, that he was convicted of espionage because he was handing information over to the Israelis from inside the US, and then they I think he did like a 20-30 year bid or something like that. But yeah, I mean, you got some guy from a right-wing outlet who's an American Zionist Jew, and he wants to speak for Arab Christians when he's the one oppressing them. He's the one oppressing them. He has the nerve to come and start correcting them. To hell with the Zionists. Screw them. Left, right, upside down, screw them. I swear the amount of lies that comes out of their mouth, it's unbelievable. Like they will sit there and try to convince you that 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, it equals 15. And if you say otherwise, you hate Jews. They will sit there and like stare at you in the face and actually try to convince you that you're insane. Here, let me show you how they spit. The Israelis walk past and now they'll tell you, well, it's just a part of society. Well, we don't want them. We don't want them. We don't want this small part of society that just so happens to have control over people's lives and spits at them. Unbelievable. Here they are. Look at them. You got Israeli settlers walking by, every single one of them just spitting at the church. I'm not going to bother going and finding more videos for you because this one, you know, I've already shown them to you, and this is just the one I have with me right here. You've seen countless of these videos on the channel here with me during the live streams, so you can happily look them up for yourselves. There's actually so many, it's not even worth time. Here you can see as well.
Ultra-Orthodox Jews spit toward Christians carrying a cross in occupied East Jerusalem this week, an act of religious hatred, igniting a scandal in Israel and beyond. Other videos, also widely seen on social media, show Jews spitting toward nuns outside a church. And yet another where Jews spit at a church doorway. Israeli police say they have arrested 5 people, one a minor, in the latest incident. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu condemned the spitting attacks. But
he's condemning them because more and more people are paying attention. This has been going on for 75 years. You got villages, entire villages that have been wiped out. There were Christian villages, and there was no need to do that. It's so greedy. It's like they're not even living in these places, and they turn them into parks. So, you know, Palestinian Christians were kicked out of their homes. The Israelis bombed their homes, bombed them. So there's nothing to go back to, just like Gaza. And then they turned the bombed homes into a park for some Israeli settlement nearby. I showed you this documentary before. It's called, here, I'll pull it up on YouTube. It's called What Happened to the Palestinian Christians, okay? I've put the link now in the description, so you can. Here it is. The Stones Cry Out. Okay, the story of Palestinian Christians. Sorry, I botched the title a little bit, but it's called The Stones Cry Out. Okay, go watch it. Go watch it, and you can see what treatment they get. So again, it's important to underscore this because you have people in the United States, like Tucker, who are only just waking up to this, and it's good. Yes, it's good. I'm glad that he covers this and that more people find their voice, because it's frankly boring and tiring having to explain this issue. You know, it's like, does it even matter? I mean, let's imagine for a second that everyone was a Muslim, so you would still kill them and take their homes. I mean, it's like, why are we even getting into this issue? But you have to do it apparently because it's a big voter base that fuels this genocide. If you ask me, I don't think it matters to them. I think that the majority of Christian Zionists are selfish. They are ignorant, and even if you were to show them and educate them everything that I've just told you, they would still choose to go and bomb the Middle East because they're imperialist. So to me, this makes no difference. I mean, you know, whether they are educated or not, I don't give a crap. They are, as far as I am concerned, the enemy. Literally the enemy. Not because I have a problem with them. They have a problem with Christians in the Middle East and with Muslims in the Middle East and everyone in the Middle East. They just want to kill them and take their land and build bases and take the oil and control it. It's never ending. Right? You finish with France, you get Britain. You finish with Britain, you get the Americans. You finish with the Americans, you get the Israelis. It's never-ending bullshit from these people. Never enough. There's not enough money in the world to satisfy them. There's not enough land or oil in the world to satisfy them. They're the enemy. They're killers. They're murderers. I'm sorry you have to hear it this way. It's the truth. It's the truth. No one from Syria went to murder Americans and steal their resources and make fun of them and, you know, be racist. No one from Lebanon went to that and did that to the French. No one from Palestine went and did that to the British. No one. No one came from Arabic countries and started killing Jews. No one did that ever in history. That's not a thing. It's made up. Sorry, I have to be so direct. It has to be said because no one else will say it. No one else will say it to you like this. Not one person, because they're afraid of you know, pissing off people. And no, I don't care. You got people being bombed, and now we're starting to care about people's feelings because we don't want to hurt. No, this has to be said, and it has to be said this way. And you know, Father Isaac maybe has more tact than myself. Or not tact, but shall we say he likes to put things more diplomatically. Well, I think the time for diplomacy is over. And you know, just to add to that, for example, let's talk about pilgrimage. If you know, let's say one of my cousins who is who's Syrian Christian and wants to go visit Jerusalem. Okay, because it's a holy city and they want to see it as a Christian. They can't. Now, the Israelis will say that, oh my God, that's not true. It's Syria that won't let you back in. Hey, I didn't talk about being let back into Syria because you have an Israeli visa on the passport. That's if you get one. I'm talking about, hypothetically, a Syrian who lives on Mars. They live on Mars. They want to go to Jerusalem and go back to Mars. Okay? You happy? They live on Mars. And this Syrian Christian wants to go to Jerusalem. Will the Israelis let them in? The answer is no, because you're Syrian. Goodbye. Happy? So that's it. It's that simple. Now, you have some churches in the West, only in the West, that might be able to get some Syrian Christians in through a group trip or some kind of group pilgrimage. That's completely different. I'm talking about, can a Syrian pick up and just go to Jerusalem and visit it like they used to for thousands of years? You know, like 100 years ago, you could just go to Jerusalem. You could take a train from Damascus to Jerusalem. You could ride on a camel. You could go in your car. You could take a bicycle, whatever. You want to go to Jerusalem. That's it. That's your thing. You want to go on pilgrimage. You want to go have fun. I don't care. Can you do that? No, you can't. Muslim, Christian, doesn't matter. You're not coming. Bye. So that's another way that the Israelis oppress people. And that's besides the bombings, right? That's besides the support for Al-Qaeda and all the other things that they've done. You remember the Israelis supported the invasion of Iraq. They supported the war on Syria. They helped Al-Qaeda. And then, of course, you had a huge number of Christians in Iraq and Syria leave because they're, you know, you got Al-Qaeda on their doorstep and being paid, armed and trained by the West, by Israel. So that's another way that the Israelis, you know, they like to treat Christians. Again, it's ironic because it's not particularly against Christians. What they really care about is killing everybody. They want to kill everybody, and for them, they will kill every single person in Syria if it means that they can take more land and steal the water in the Golan Heights without a headache, without being bothered that, oh, well, it's not really ours, and oh, international law, and oh, we don't like that Syria supports the resistance, oh, we don't like that they support Hamas, and they support all these people who want to take the fucking land back that we stole. It's not good for us. They will kill every single person. They don't care about their religion. It's not even about that. But I'm showing you how no matter what, you know, demographic you pick, you'll find that Israel is screwing them. In Syria, in Lebanon, in Palestine, it's a giant screw you from the Zionists and from America and from Europe, right? Who say never again, but they mean every day again, right? Every day again. Every day, genocide again. That's Europe's attitude. Every day. Thank you to John and Dwapali, who who have joined on Patreon. I will play you a crab dance momentarily. We have also a donation here from Kabursi, who says, "Thank you for the excellent work, Richard. Keep going. We need you." You're very sweet. And we have another one from Mason who says, "You are the man. God bless you for all the good work you do." Thank you. And we also have some on Rumble that I wanted to read to you guys. So just give me a second to scroll up and find them. We have one from the Iranian Putin. Again, I love this name. It's so funny. And the profile picture to go with it. Thank you. And we also have... we also have another one here from... my note is, okay, note my name is Ian. I'll just say Ian, because I swear I was going to try and read Ayana. Anyway, Ian says, in any case, Richard, here's a Eid gift for you. Thank you for your work. You switched to Arabic in Roman letters. Okay. In La ilaha illallah. And again, I wish everybody Eid Mubarak, who's Eid Mubarak, and really, despite what they're doing in Gaza, because they want to kind of break people's spirits and rub it into people's faces, especially with this assassination. But they do this every year. You know, they attack the Aqsa Mosque during Ramadan, or they wait till it's Eid and then they start doing something else. It's like a psychological warfare thing, you know. Thank you, Gucci, again for the donation. And Iranian Putin said, Richard is Syrian in the UK. Well, no, I'm British. My mother is Christian Syrian, and We have another one as well from Iranian Putin, who was suggesting to get Kevork. I've had him on. We talked about this topic actually. And Ian says, I made a reel of part of your Talmud versus Torah Ben Shapiro retirement rant. Yes, well, it's another thing that people need to be educated about, because they understand maybe the Christian Zionism bit. They don't know the Talmud bit, which is also a big pillar, shall we say, or bedrock of Zionism. It's fully in soaked in that ideology, and it's got nothing to do with the Torah, really. Fuck Israel says, can we have the crab dance? I love your political analysis. You're not allowed to stop. You know too much to be quiet. Stay loud. Well, that's very well put. I will certainly put on the crab dance in a minute, and I'm just reading out all of these donations. But since you asked so nicely, I have no choice but to oblige you.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard. Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome.
Thank you.
والله انت كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole. China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro.
And then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me? Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large.
we got him.
Because I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up. Disgusting!
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway. We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Why you text sender? Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it! I yield my time! Fuck you!
You have to hand it to the Zionists. They make for excellent comedy. They really do. It's like you can say 1 + 1 = 2, and they will say, yeah, but actually I don't like your clothes. Yes, and 1 + 1 still equals 2. No, but actually something about your family, or the weather is not nice. They try everything in the book to change the subject. They're so funny, right? And it's not even just change the subject. It's just like flat out lies. Anyway, let me show you some footage that came out from the front today. So I'll go through them one by one, because it's or rather one front after the other. Okay. They're really funny. Okay, so let's start with Yemen. So Yemen have attacked more ships, Israeli ships and American ships. Let me give you all the info here. So they attacked 2 American ships. One was a destroyer, and the other was a commercial ship. It was called the Maersk Yorktown. Okay, they always sometimes they abbreviate the names of the ships. So MSC and Maersk are these giant shipping companies, but the name of the ship is Yorktown. Okay. So they attacked a military ship, a destroyer, and the Yorktown, a commercial ship. And then 2 Israeli commercial ships, or linked to Israel. One is called Darwin, and the other one is Gina. Remember that the Israelis, as I said, they love to change the subject and play smoke and mirrors. So the Israeli-linked ships don't necessarily have to have an Israeli flag. That's not the point. If it were only Israeli-flagged ships going across the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, well, there wouldn't be that many of them. The Israelis bring in food and supplies with all sorts of ships with various flags from around the world. So the flag is irrelevant. I don't care what the name of the flag is. I'm just giving you the info. So the Yemenis went and hit these in the Red Sea, in the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, and as you all know, their siege, their blockade has extended all the way now into the Indian Ocean, which is, I mean, it's an unbelievable feat. It's an unbelievable feat. This is just a video, one of their drones taking off. So these drones that they fire, they'll usually fire them at the destroyers, and they also use the anti-ship ballistic missiles, of course, because when you fire one of those, you're trying to do two things. One with the drones is to overwhelm the military ships. It's very difficult to shoot these things down. They're tiny, and even if you do shoot them down with whatever missiles you have on board, it's an economic hit that you take. So theoretically, Yemen could fire 50 drones and it would cost them nothing, but it would bleed. It really bleeds the ships of their arsenals, and of course then the country of its money, because the missiles are so expensive. So it's such an effective tool, the drone. It's so light, easy to build, cheap, and gets the job done. And then of course when it comes to the anti-ship ballistic missiles, I mean more specifically those, that one is something, it's more of a Yemeni innovation. Now you'll have the Americans saying, oh, well, they actually invented it and they tested it like 20 years ago. I don't care. Who's actually using this for the first time in this method? It's the Yemenis. You have to give them credit for that. If it's the Yemenis, it's not only them, it's the Iranians. The Iranians have made enormous advances and innovations with missile technology. They've beaten the Americans and the Israelis at their own game, so to speak, right? Because they've always been afraid of someone else catching up to them, and it's not just catching up; they're exceeding, they excel at missile technology. They truly do, and that's the only reason that the resistance are able to fend off all of these American and Israeli vessels, and not just military ones, but of course the commercial ones then become an even easier and lighter challenge once you've dealt with the military ones. So these escorts, because they, after all, the only purpose of these ships, and this should give you food for thought. Why is there an American destroyer in the Red Sea? It's not just one, it's a fleet. But for example, this Yorktown, why was it with an American destroyer? It goes to show you, it's all about the economy. The Americans are sending ships to the other side of the planet to safeguard their economic interests. So it's all about imperialism. It's all about colonialism. It's got nothing to do with anything else. Anyone who tells you otherwise is a scam artist, a clown, an idiot. It's about imperialism. You don't send a destroyer, you don't send a fleet of ships to the other side of the planet for, just for fun, for a boat ride. Okay? You shouldn't do that. I'm not saying you should do that, but if you do that, it exposes your interests and your incentives and motives. And so the Yemenis, again, I'll play you. This is from Yahya Sariya, who's the spokesperson. I'll just play a short bit of the clip where he's announcing the latest hits from today's album, from today's record. Okay, the latest hits from the Red Triangle Record Company.
وردا على العدوان الأمريكي البريطاني على بلدنا، نفذت القوات البحرية في القوات المسلحة اليمنية بعون الله تعالى 4 عمليات عسكرية صباح يومنا هذا، وعلى النحو التالي: استهداف سفينتين إسرائيليتين.
Right, so they hit 2 ships, 2 Israeli ships.
الأولى سفينة MSC داروين، والأخرى سفينة MSC جينا، والتي تم استهدافها مجددا، وذلك في خليج عدن.
So that's in the Gulf of Aden. And the interesting thing is that if you were paying attention to my last video, this is the second time that they've hit MSC Gina, right? It's it's the second time that they've hit this ship.
استهداف سفينة ميرسك يورك تاون الأمريكية، وذلك في خليج عدن. استهداف سفينة حربية أمريكية في خليج عدن بعدد من الطائرات المسيرة، وقد تم استهداف.
Right, so they hit the US destroyer with a volley of drones in the Gulf of Aden.
السفن بعدد من الصواريخ البحرية المناسبة والطائرات المسيرة.
Right, so both anti-ship ballistic missiles and the drones.
إن القوات المسلحة اليمنية مستمرة في تأدية واجبها الديني والأخلاقي والإنساني تجاه الشعب الفلسطيني المظلوم.
And then he, of course, says the usual part, which is basically that, you know, this is in accordance with the Yemenis' obligation towards the Palestinians, both as, you know, Arabs, as Muslims, as human beings, right? It's a humanitarian obligation to target these ships. And again, Article 1, Genocide Convention, very clear. It doesn't say you should punish and prevent genocide by, you know, waving white flags or wearing pink t-shirts. It says you got to punish and prevent genocide. How you do that is up to you, right? I've read you Article 1. It's very short. It's 1 sentence. So UKMTO, which is the... I've no doubt it's run by spooks. I've no doubt. But nevertheless, they acknowledged and registered the hits. They didn't reveal the names of the ships because if you're registering the events and then publishing the names of the ships, they do, of course, sometimes. But in this case, we only found out through Yemen. If UKMTO were to do that, it's a propaganda win. You know, it's a propaganda win for the resistance and a very bad look for the Israelis. So they only said that there was a security event in the Gulf of Aden, nothing more. And then we had, of course, Mr. Yahya Saria on the job to tell us what happened. So that's hit number 1 from the Red Triangle Record Company. Let me go over to hit number 2 today. Let's look at the center, the epicenter. Let's look at hit number 2 from April the 10th by the Red Triangle Record Company. This is in Palestine itself. I've got 2 videos for you. One of them is from the Al-Quds Brigades, so basically from the PIJ, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and then I've got another one for you from the Qassam Brigades from Hamas. And this is, honestly, as I've said before, this footage that we get out of Gaza is remarkable in many ways because whatever side you're on, again, if there is such a thing, you cannot look at this and then say this is not good combat journalism. It is, objectively speaking, I mean, it's never seen before, honestly. Let's begin with the first one. So you can see they're setting up a booby trap, and the editing is phenomenal because 1 second you've got the resistance fighter, and then it cuts to the exact same spot with the Israelis walking into the trap. Right. So it says in Arabic here that one of them is trying to get up, and then he gets sniped. And it says here the sound of the Israelis yelling, screaming. Yeah, and now they're running away. Do you see how he looks into the camera like some grinning idiot? One that's been had. This is another spectacular bit because once again, the filming, it's like an action movie. And when I say an action movie, I literally mean like filming an action movie. You've got multiple camera angles of the same event. I mean, how often do you have something like this in a combat zone? Never. It's happened before. I've seen it, but it's not the first time. But it is in this war the first time I've seen the same thing filmed. And actually, in Syria, you had one event that was filmed by both sides. You had from the Syrian army a camera crew, and then from Al Qaeda, which is even more uncommon. Anyway, without further ado, you can. You see, the tank is going over a mine or an IED. There it is, the same moment, captured from both angles. Yeah, so this is, again, back to the first scene, how they're trying to drag one of them away. Now, the Israelis claim that... Yeah, and now they're withdrawing. The Israelis claim now, you've seen this clip. They claim they've only lost 200 and, what was it, 65 soldiers, something like that, or 56. I mean, again, the Israelis will lie about pretty much everything. So any army in the world, we have to say here, any army in the world is going to inflate its victories and deflate its losses. So I've no doubt that Israelis are doing that too, but 256 is not deflating the losses. That's just lying. That's straight up lying. There's a difference between saying, you know, I lost 380 instead of 400, and then saying I lost 260 instead of 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 or more. I don't know what the real number is. I really don't. But I can guarantee you it is not 265. I will sign that on a piece of paper. It is not 265. That is a lie. You know, the Israelis have so many wounded, and the proportion, the ratio just doesn't work out. Because usually for that number of wounded, you must have a higher kill count. And I've told you this before. The math doesn't add up. Anyway, I just thought to mention that again because of how ridiculous this is. But meanwhile, you know, going back to Haniyeh, the Israelis are very good at murdering, you know, the grandchildren of Hamas leaders. That they're very good at. But fighting man to man, you get this result. You get this idiot grinning into the lens. Remember, let's just for all time's sake, pull him up. Right? That's the difference. This is the Israelis when they're murdering children, and this is when they have to fight man to man. They don't stack up too well, do they? They're not as tough or as hard as they make themselves out to be, are they? Let me show you another clip. Now this one is from, as I promised, it's from the Quds Brigades. And I think Gold Alchemist sent it in. So again, thank you to Gold Alchemist. Right. Here we go. Yeah, you'll forgive me. I have to keep it down because of the copyright. But they're focusing on armored units, and people often forget that you have other brigades in Gaza. They think it's just Qassam brigades and Hamas, and it's a very, again, it's a very ignorant thing that they do in the media. I mean, you've also got PFLP fighting in Gaza. You've got so many factions, Palestinian factions. And it's a very here with the RPG, just going back to the footage. I'll just remind you, because you have some people who don't like this, and I understand. I completely understand. I'm the first one to say that war is bad. I'm the first one. But I know my history, and I know that the Palestinians signed the Oslo Accords, and Israel violated the Oslo Accords. They built more settlements. They refused to release prisoners, like those who were given life sentences, but then amnesty. You know, like we had in the Good Friday Agreement in England. We had the Good Friday agreement with the IRA. Even if someone has 11 life sentences, they walk free. No, the Israelis, they killed Walid Daqqa. He died before yesterday because they refused to release him. He should have been out in 1993. Man, I was born in 92. That guy he should have been out since I was born. Instead, he died in prison. And now I'm a man. I mean, what is that? So the Israelis have lied and stolen for 75 years, and people, you know, their patience has ends. It has limits. Even now with Gaza, you got Palestinians living on this tiny strip of land. They're under siege, and then on top of that, what do? They bomb them. I mean, it's like it's too much. This is greediness. It's beyond greedy. It's greed of another kind. It's just evil to put people like that in such a position. I mean, again, the Americans do the same thing, you know? They do the same thing. in Iraq and Syria and so on. And they did the same thing to Yemen. They kept arming Saudi, kept giving Saudi, a blank check to do what they want, to starve people in Yemen, and then take their fuel away, which causes the inflation, and then you can't produce anything, and there's no electricity, and you can't even get light above your head when you read. I mean, people have limits to their patience, right? These rednecks in America with their shotguns would be shooting people before they even got to the shores if they were being invaded. You wouldn't even be at the shore. They'd already be shooting at you. But when it comes to the Arabs, oh no, you can't do anything or else you're a terrorist. How dare you defend yourself in your own home, on your own land, with a gun? Only Americans can do that. Only Americans get to have guns and shoot people, right, for no reason. But you can't actually legitimately defend yourself. No, that makes you terrorist. So, people got tired of that game. And that maybe works on Fox News and it maybe works on TV. But in reality, if you come to Palestine, and I'm not talking as a tourist or a student or, a businessman, I'm talking as an invader. If you come to Palestine or Syria or Yemen or Iraq, you will get what is coming. You will get what is yours. You'll get what's coming to you, right? Action, reaction. You don't get to walk into land that doesn't belong to you and start ordering people around and taking their shit. That doesn't work. Maybe it works in movies. It doesn't work in real life. I'll show you a clip now from Yemen that I wanted to show you before, which is going to make you laugh, honestly, because one of you in the comments actually pointed it out to me, and I was picking it out while we were watching this, and I'm glad you did. So forgive me, I don't know who it was. This was I can't find it. Anyway, I'll just show you the clip. This is from yesterday, and it's the Yemenis, all right? And you have to love them. You really have to love the Yemenis because they're so funny, and you remember that ship? Do you remember the ship Galaxy Leader, which started everything? The blossoming. So I'll play you this clip, and it's from yesterday, and it's the Yemenis doing the Eid prayers for Ramadan on top of the Galaxy Leader, which is the name of the ship that they procured, shall we put it, during that they captured, of course, during the start of the naval blockade. And they put out this footage. Just take a look. I'm just going to mute it for copyright, but isn't that something? Isn't that something? People were laughing 6 months ago when they thought the Yemenis are going to get into the fight. They said, what leg do the Yemenis have to stand on? With what army? And then you had all these ridiculous memes online about, oh my God, America is going to send a bunch of ships. Well, they're not laughing now, are they? They're not so smart now, are they? They don't look too bright now, do they?
نقول للشعب الفلسطيني الشعب اليمني إلى جانبكم دائما. نقول لإخواننا في غزة لستم وحدكم الشعب اليمني إلى جانبكم حتى النصر.
One people. All right, that's what they're saying. And you saw he's lost his arm in battle. I just thought to add that to what we already said about Yemen. Right? They're really the best people. They're the best people. And on the topic of one people, I thought of demonstrating something to you, a very simple demonstration. It's a very simple demonstration. Let us open Google Maps and let us go to the Middle East, and I will show you the damage that has been wrought by the West. Very simple demonstration. I thought of it earlier, and I wanted to make sure to show it to you. So, this is the Middle East about 100 years ago, okay? A little more than 100 years ago. In the beginning of the 20th century, let's say 1900. It looks like that. And this is the Middle East now, after Britain and America. And France came and they started drawing random borders. Okay? That's before, that's after. Because you see all of these countries and this whole concept of, you know, a state, it's a European concept. It's a Western concept. This is not a concept that came from the region, nor was it agreed to by anyone in the region. Syria is all of this. Do you understand? All of that is Syria, but they then splintered it into little pieces. Oh, you've got one thing called Israel, then you got another one called Lebanon, and then you have another one called Palestine, which is like 2 parts, and then you have another thing called Jordan, and then, you know what, let's give a chunk of Syria to Iraq, and we'll give another chunk of Syria to Turkey over there, and then, you know, we'll just add some other countries down south. Let's go and make up, I don't know, Kuwait and the UAE and, you know, gas stations, basically. Gas stations, which is what they call Russia. They like to call Russia a gas station. No, actually, the real gas stations are these things. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the UAE. These are gas stations. Okay? So these borders are barely 100 years old. I'm talking about Sykes-Picot in 1916, and then we have Balfour Declaration a year later in 1917. All done in secret. All planned not here in the Middle East, but over here in Europe. So you tell me what gives anyone here the right to go down here and start carving things up. You can't. You can't. There's no argument for this. So Israel is completely made up. Okay? I mean, Zionism is even worse than what we're talking about because, you know, the carving up, the fracturing, the balkanizing of this region was not only about creating Israel. Like I said, it's about putting rich families in seats like Saudi Arabia. You know, the whole concept of Saudi Arabia is we want a family that we know are bandits, the house of Al Saud, and who are going to be aligned to our interests. Now, keep in mind, 73, king back then, different story. But for the most part, Western aligned. Kuwait, again, it's a piece of Iraq that they then carved out and said, oh, there's a lot of oil here. Kuwait. Oh, welcome to Kuwait. And then the UAE. The UAE is even bigger of a joke because most people who live here are not even from, they're not even Arabs. They're not even from the UAE. They're foreigners. I think it's 80%. 80%. I mean, if there was ever a fake country, look no further than Israel. But this is a good example as well. And lo and behold, who were in the Abraham Accords? Oh, it's those gas stations. Bahrain and the UAE. So do you understand the game here? And who is next in line to normalize ties with Israel? Oh, it's our buddies, Saudi Arabia. Oh, and who has already normalized ties with Israel? Ah, it's those other countries, Jordan and Egypt. Now, we got in a stranglehold, in a chokehold, that we made sure are going to do what we say. Now, Egypt, of course, is Egypt. Who can say Egypt is not real? Jordan, again, you got Hashemite family who put in place, controlled, you know, it's a Western asset. I mean, the guy's, forget it. I'm not talking about his wife. I'm talking about the king. His wife's Palestinian. I think she has no choice but to stay quiet, even though she tried to object to this. But, you know, she doesn't have any power. If she had power, she'd be gone. So you do understand the game here. And then when it comes to Syria, at the end of World War I, they kicked the Ottomans out. The Arabs did that, okay? And they did it with Britain's help. Now, the whole point was that you had Faisal, Prince Faisal, who then became King Faisal, and he was elected. He was elected to be leader of what is Syria. And they weren't happy with that. So you had something called the Kingdom of Syria, the Arab Kingdom of Syria. And then they basically, the French came, they removed him from power, and then Britain took him next door to Iraq. And they tried to make him popular in Iraq and kind of imposed him on people, even though he wasn't, you know, he had no a base or any kind of support there. It's illegitimate. It's another, you know, propped up leader. Not that He was propped up in Syria. In Syria, he was really legitimately elected. And it was democratic and it was independent. But no, it's because it's democratic, because it's independent, because it's not controlled by France and Britain that it had to go. Do you understand? So Britain, France, and America fucked the whole Middle East, and it's 2024, and these borders, these ridiculous lines on the map that are fake, that are illegitimate, that no one voted for, that no one asked for, they are the source of all the problems that you see today. Every single thing. Genocide in Gaza. Ethnic cleansing in Gaza, in Palestine, in Jerusalem. Whether we're talking about Christians or all Palestinians, it's the same thing. Displacement of populations. You got Palestinians going into Syria, Iraqis coming into Syria, and then Syrians going into Europe, and then you got some of them in Turkey, and you got Armenians that were killed, and it also went to all of these genocides, all of these transfers of populations, ethnic cleansing, were done by Europeans and their allies. So Germany and the Ottoman Empire. Remember, during Armenian genocide, all of the guns that the Ottoman Turks used were manufactured. They were German Kar-98s, K-98 rifles. So, I mean, it's the same thing you're seeing today. Half the bombs, 47% of the weapons Israel is importing are German. Same goddamn thing. Nothing changed. So we are seeing the effects of things that happened 100 years ago because they're still there. Nothing changed since 100 years ago, right? So what I'm interested in, I'm not interested in these borders. For me, these borders are fake. I just gave you the reason why. They're literally fake. It's not like my opinion that they're fake. They were drawn by a bunch of people in Paris. What the fuck does anyone in Paris have business doing drawing borders in the Middle East? Is it okay? So is it okay for, the president of Syria to just start carving up France? Why not, right? Since we're doing this, why not? I think we should allow that, right? So either we undo this with reparations paid by Britain and France and America, or we can keep going with this trend and we can have the president of Syria, maybe, I don't know, carving up France into like 50 countries. How about that? Right? Every département gets its own phone code and becomes its own independent republic. And why not have Scotland become independent as well? And then inside Scotland, we can have another 50 countries, right? Since we're doing this. How about that? It's only fair. It's only fair. It's only fair. So this is a bunch of rubbish to me. I'm not interested in these borders. It's just like in Africa. I mean, we got 54 countries in Africa. 54, right? How many of those do you think were drawn by Western powers? You can go ahead and guess in the comments. Because it's a fair bit. And then, of course, Latin America is a different issue. I'm not going to go through every continent now. I want to stay with the Middle East, with the Levant. So this needs undoing. Once again, we have Syria that's fractured into 5, 6 pieces. And we have the rest of them. Now, not everything in the Gulf is necessarily bad. Like, I mean, Yemen, Oman, for example, they've done nothing wrong, right? But these things here, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, I mean, they're a disaster for the Arab world. They've done nothing but house American bases, right? All of the American bases are in these countries. And they do nothing but attack other Arabs with them. I mean, when they invaded Iraq, they invaded it through Saudi Arabia because the Saudis, this criminal family that was installed by Britain, gave the Americans permission to put bases and weapons there, right? Now, I know Bin Laden doesn't like that. I don't give a crap about Bin Laden. He's a CIA asset. So we go back to the same thing, right? I'm talking to you from an anti-colonial viewpoint. So I'm not interested in all these lines. These lines mean nothing. They're a joke. Okay? They're a joke. They're a joke. No one voted for this. Right? Usually this should be one country. This should all be Syria. Syria used to go all the way to where you see Gaza, ironically, right? So this over here is where Syria stretched to. And I can show you, I'll give you an example. Let me read something to you. Okay? This is from Ibn Battuta, who's a great, very famous traveler. one of the most famous travelers and explorers in history. Okay, and I'll just read to you what he says here, right? So he says, from there we went on to the town of Gaza, which is the first of the towns of Syria on the borders of Egypt. So Gaza is first of the towns of Syria on the borders of Egypt. So as I was saying, Syria was not this tiny thing here. It stretched all the way down to here, down to Gaza. This used to be one country, one region, one place. It's always been like that. Why do you think everyone speaks the same dialect in this, the Levantine dialect? Why does everyone eat the same food, right? It's obvious. And then you've got this anomaly called Israel, which is nothing, like zero to do with anyone, just like stuck there, a bunch of Europeans. There's, you know, no one is talking about Jews because you have Jews already in all of these places already. But they then forced them out and then went and put them here, and it's an American base, right? But we go back to the issue of Syria. It's a country that fractured, and then Lebanon, for example. I mean, Lebanon is a country that it's got all these various groups, and they're just at each other's throats. So that's another symptom of this issue. It's a French colonial country that they carved out so that it would be like the only Arab Christian country. Arab Christians don't have a problem being amongst Muslims. Why you got to take all of them and dump them in one place? Again, you see this sectarian colonialism. It's like Israel. Let's take all of the Jews and put them in one place, all the Christians in one place. You know, we'll have like Shiites here and Sunnis there. It's colonial thinking, right? Colonialism 101 from Paris and London. It's unrealistic. It only creates problems. So Lebanon had a 30 years civil war. I mean, I'm not going to go into Lebanon's history because we'd be here all night, but it shows you the problems it creates. I mean, again, and then Israel, the biggest problem of all. The Palestinians didn't even get to have their own share of this stupid state concept. Where is the state that you keep trying to impose on people? Where is it? They don't even get it. They get oppressed on top of it. And then Iraq, I mean, once again, it's like they want to carve it up into pieces, and then they don't even let these pieces be. They have to go in and start invading them and bombing them and sanctioning them and starving them. So, you know, it's a lot of issues, so many issues. And a lot of these problems would not exist were these borders not drawn up, and were these countries like Saudi Arabia, Emirates, and Egypt and Jordan enabling the Israelis and Americans, and Qatar, of course, you know, and forget Turkey. I mean, Turkey is not an Arab country anyway. But you know, I mean, Egypt was very different from how it is today, but it got captured. So they have problems with the water down here coming up through the Nile. They built a bunch of dams. I talked about this in the documentary series I made about how they control Egypt. But you see, this is really the best encapsulation I can give you about the Middle East. I'm not going to go into... There are people who are going to try and lie you into details and start saying, oh, it's about Sunni this and Shia that. No. That's the whole point. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's about foreigners. And when I say foreigners, I mean invaders. I'm not talking about an immigrant family. I'm talking about invaders coming from France, coming from Britain, coming from Ukraine, coming from America. People with weapons who are here to kill and steal. This is a completely different equation. It's about them coming here and imposing their thinking on others. And it's so big. I don't even want to know if you would draw up a reparations bill. I don't even want to know what the end sum would be, because every single cent, if you would actually talk about reparations for Sykes-Picot, you would have to count every single, and you should, you count every single cent that is being lost because of wars, because of sanctions, because of all the problems since 1916 and onwards. You have to, right? When someone comes in and starts dividing up your house and making up rooms and moving in new families into your own bedroom, and I mean, so this is the problem with the Middle East, okay? It's Europeans coming in, making up borders, stealing things, and then installing families who call themselves kings or royal families, and then like Saudi Arabia, and then putting bases there so they can attack into the future, right? This is it. Anyone who tells you otherwise is a liar. This is what's wrong with the Middle East. It's not Arabs, it's Europeans, it's Americans, and it's their collaborators. They ruined it. I'll talk to you about Assange in a second. You guys know, obviously, I'm covering Assange's case very closely, and this is a clip from the White House, Biden speaking, and then I'll comment further once I've played it.
President Biden, do you have a response to Australia's request that you end Julian Assange's prosecution?
I didn't hear you.
Do you have a response to Australia's request that you end Julian Assange's prosecution?
I'm considering it.
You're considering. Do you have a response?
So he's asked whether they will drop the charges, and he says, we're considering it. Well, how benevolent of you, Mr. Biden. You know, I'll just remind you, Biden had 4 years now to drop these charges. And yes, I'm going to be pessimistic because I know what goes on in this case. And they've tried everything, from thinking about killing Assange to kidnapping him, poisoning him. So yeah, I expect nothing less but dishonesty. Joe Biden had 4 years to drop this case, which Donald Trump started. Nothing. Now, because the movement is growing a bit, and it's an election year, he's inclined to say and drop hints like this. I'm not convinced until I see Assange outside the prison walls, okay? Until I see him outside of Belmarsh, then I'm convinced. Because until then, this is suspicious. I don't trust CIA. I don't trust Joe Biden. I don't trust the U.S. administration. He's the one prosecuting him, so why would he show any mercy? It's only in his interest to pretend to show mercy. So unless I see Assange outside the walls, I'm not convinced. And I think, I think it was Margaret Kimberly, who is who also put it very well. And I'll show you what she wrote. She said Biden has had 3 years to consider anything about Assange. All of his pronouncements between now and November are suspect. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's nothing else to say on the topic. That's it. The Americans, they have about a week until the 16th of April to clarify their assurances that they've given to the British state. I mean, to me, this is ridiculous to watch because, don't get me wrong, the British government know this as well. But they're pretending they don't know. They know the Americans are trying to kill him, and they know that the assurances are worthless. And that's what's scary, is that the Americans can say anything they want, they can lie openly, and the British government will just say, yeah. And then when it comes time to hold them to account and say, hey, you lied, you gave this assurance, and now Assange is in your custody, and you're putting him in special administrative measures, etc. You're violating his human rights. The British government won't even bother taking the Americans to court and saying, well, you did give us this assurance, you have to do something. Because remember, I can't go to the court and make the British government do anything. The assurance is not to me. The assurance is to the British government. So it's the British government that in the event of violations has to go and contest in court. And you can't trust them to do that. So we have two governments now that we're fighting instead of one. Because one of them is a liar and the other one is just going along with the lies. So, you can't trust either one. This is a big problem. And for me, this is particularly egregious because, I did work on these assurances. I published previous ones that the Americans had given, and I proved that they're liars. You can't trust them. And the British government, the judiciary, they just ignored it. They acted like there's nothing wrong. It's like they're burying their heads in the sand. They're burying their heads in the sand. So when you're dealing with that, I mean, the Americans could say, for example, tomorrow, because they have a deadline until the 16th, they could say, for example, we promise not to violate his human rights. We promise not to put him in special administrative measures. We promise not to induce any suicide. We promise, etc. Blah 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 blah. They could even say we promise to give him water, a cup of water, and they'll violate it. I don't trust them. Neither should you. If you know anything about this case, you shouldn't trust them. And the fact that it's come to this stage, it's come to this point, where the British government, the judges were basically saying, well, everything else in this case in the appeal is thrown out, and the only thing we care about is we want to give the Americans a second chance to make themselves look good before we rubber stamp the extradition. That is also scary, because there are lots of things wrong with this case. All of the dozen or so points that Assange was bringing forward should have been allowed to go ahead to an appeals court, and they just threw it out. That exposes their motivations. I've got some more footage for you. So this is new footage from Hezbollah. It's from 2 days ago, but it was only released today. Okay, and it's an operation where the Lebanese resistance, they went and attacked several Israeli soldiers and tanks and positions, and I'll just walk you through it very quickly. So we have Hezbollah going after Israeli troops and military sites on the border with occupied Palestine. They first attacked one of the occupied sites. So remember, when we say occupied Palestine, we're talking about Palestine, obviously, and in Lebanon. So the Israelis are occupying both. Yes, it's confusing, but that's the nature of the occupation. So they did one with artillery, and the other one also in the Shaba farms. And I want to show you this clip that they released, where they would take out a Merkava tank. The footage goes out at the end because the warhead explodes, but we'll have more footage, no doubt. Okay, it's just a brief update. I just wanted to show it to you because you don't hear any of this on the news, right? It's too embarrassing for them to show you. And again, you recall the other day, Hezbollah hit both the Golan Heights and also inside Lebanon, and this is the footage from that day. Okay, so it's the 7th of April. We have some new donations that just came in. I'll read to you. We have one here on PayPal that came from Medina. Thank you very much. We also have another one on PayPal. This is from Jinan, who says, thanks for the excellent work, Richard. Keep going. We need you. And we have also a new member on Patreon. This is from Tina. So I'll play Tina a crab dance momentarily. And we also have a new donation on Rumble. Several new donations. One of them is from the Crazy Puppet. It's good to see you, Crazy Puppet. It says, keep on doing great work. And Gucci says, Richie, what you think about this is, I was talking with a friend, he had an interesting theory. He thinks after the King of Jordan retires and his son takes over, the West will pressure him to take the Palestinians because he's half Palestinian himself, right? Through the mother. Yeah, or the queen. The West will try to play him as the hero and Jordan becomes the new Palestine. Obviously, it's more in depth than this, but this was the general theory he had. Well, Jordan have already taken in their fair share of Palestinians, right? Just like Syria did. I mean, there are tons of Palestinians who were ethnically cleansed and then left. It's an interesting theory, but I think that they're far more. Look, let me put it this way. I'm not going to dismiss it because they may very well go ahead and do this, but I think that the West and Israel are far more brazen and callous than that, because their idea has been straight up like, hey, we're genociding a bunch of people. Can we just move them into a parking lot in the Sinai desert and just build them a bunch of houses? They're actually saying this, like they're so shameless. So why would they go through all the effort of deception and trying to, wait until the sun? I mean, I don't know. I think Netanyahu and again, we should stop saying Netanyahu. It's all of the Israelis. They are all occupiers. They believe in hugging trees, or they're ultra Zionists. They're still occupiers, right? They want to get rid of the Palestinians. So this is equally possible, but I think, as I said, they're being far more callous and straightforward about it. So, this is too much effort, what you've described. They won't go for it. But thank you all for the donations. And I'll remind everybody to please support the channel, because they are trying to, punish me because I give you no filter. I tell you exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it. And whether it's the French in Niger, whether it's the Israelis in Palestine, the Zionists in Palestine, or the Americans in Iraq, or Al-Qaeda in Syria, or NATO inside Russia, I give you the truth. I give you as best of a geopolitical analysis that I can, possibly, in any scenario. And they want to punish me for that. The CIA don't like that. The Zionists don't like that. It's too much truth in one dose. So in any case, I need your help and I need your support, because all of the money I used to make on a monthly basis, my income basically from YouTube donations, is now gone. And I have to make up for it through PayPal or Rumble or Patreon. So if you're able to, please consider donating. I don't know. It could be 2 rubles. I don't know if it takes rubles, but we saw how well the ruble did. So we have to give it a shout out. They're also not going to like that. If you're able to donate a few rubles, and again, I don't know what the exchange rate is right now, on a Patreon every month, it's most appreciated. Whether it's Australian dollars or it's gold bars, I really don't give a crap. I'll take anything you can. You can also send in hamburgers if you want. Patreon should have a hamburger option. That would help a lot. Well, you can also do PayPal with a note or a question or comment. You can also, by the way, send them on Patreon or Rumble, as we've seen. Then we have got another one from 716312 who says, love from the Philippines, free Palestine. Shout out to the Philippines indeed. And I hope that this war with China does not consume the South Pacific, because they are really hell-bent on it. It's like they don't learn anything. It's like the Israelis. They lose in they lose in Lebanon, they go into Gaza. They lose in Gaza, they start prodding Syria. They lose there, they start prodding Yemen. It's like they just won't get the message. And the Americans are the same thing. They lose in Iraq, they lose in Vietnam, they lose in Afghanistan, they lose in Ukraine and Russia, and now they want to go and stir up crap with the Chinese. I mean, what is wrong with you? The Chinese, man, if the Russians didn't scare you, I don't know what to say. if they thought Russia was tough, oh my God. Right now, if I'm China, I'm just laughing because basically the Americans were defeated by a bunch of 155mm shells and shovels. It sounds funny, but it's true. Ukraine and the United States and NATO were defeated by Russia using 155 shells and shovels. What do I mean with shovels? Did Putin personally go and whack Zelensky over the head with a shovel? No, although that might be useful. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about manpower, digging tank traps, digging tank ditches. Man, ain't no way your army and a million other people could get through that. You're screwed. It's physics. Your tank is going to fall in. And unless someone comes up with a contraption, and I'm not trying to give the military-industrial complex any ideas, but unless someone comes up with a contraption that can hook up the front of a tank and lift it out without injuring the crew and then going back, I mean, this is ridiculous. You're screwed. And then you have the obstacles, the hedgehogs or dragon's teeth. I mean, forget about it. We're going to start sounding like Johnny Depp now. Forget about it. Forget about it. But I did several videos about the Russian defenses. Please go watch them. I promise you'll enjoy them. And then the Wall Street Journal. It's really funny because I saw that they did a piece on this afterwards, like in the future. You know, like a couple months down the line after I covered it, and they wanted to charge people for old news. And me, I think it was me and Glenn, we had a laugh about it. Like, I will criticize Russia and China, though, for one thing, because I do think they're helping the resistance, but I want to see more from them. To be honest, though, let us put ourselves in the position of the Russians and the Chinese. If you're Putin or you're Xi Jinping, okay? You're looking at Palestine right now. There's nothing really you can do. I mean, unless you want to start a nuclear war, there's nothing to do because they've got a handle on the situation. You know, I was saying before that the Israelis are being bled out. The Americans, again, they're economically and militarily, what have they or the Israelis achieved? Nothing. And Russia didn't have to come and intervene, nor did the Chinese. So from that point of view, you can argue that it's not necessary. From the civilian point of view, when we talk about the actual genocide, so that's the battlefield. Now let's talk about the genocide. Here, I think there are ways that maybe they could have put more pressure on the Americans. But again, the Russians are already fighting the Americans on one battlefield, and I mean that both figuratively and economically, and you know, in every sense. In Ukraine, they've also got enough to deal with there, and the Chinese also have got enough to deal with the trade war. And you know, I mean, it's difficult going to these countries and then asking them to give you unconditional support in the UN Security Council, and then on top of that, militarily. The Arabs, with Iran, they've managed to secure that support. And, you know, I understand both sides. I understand that they're doing enough, or they're doing a lot, shall we put it that way. But I also understand that they're not doing enough. I understand both these points of views. And it's very difficult to look at this, what's happening in Gaza and Syria, and then you know, not feel kind of outraged, like where the hell is the rest of the world, right? We can also look at the ICJ, because it shouldn't have to take South Africa, for example, to be the one going to the ICJ. The Russians could have also opened the case, the Chinese. But again, politically speaking, you're going to start pissing off the Americans, and the Chinese and Russians have the Americans already pissed off enough at them. If you know, you have to think of things pragmatically. And like I said, they offer a lot of support in the UN Security Council. For Syria, they did that for 10 years. They're still doing it. For Yemen, we have to look at both points of view, and I understand both. Iman says perceived reality 100%. Lone Star says Russia did vote in the UN to stop Israel. They may be helping in other ways we don't know about, especially in Syria. Thank you. I had that in mind, and I said it in the last live stream, but I forgot to say it now. That's what I said last time, that the Russians are probably helping in ways that are covert that we don't know about. Well, I was talking about this, I think, when we were discussing Yemen and the anti-ship ballistic missile technology, and also Iran. I guarantee there's transfer of technology to the resistance through Iran. So maybe Russia and Iran are working together on drones, and then some of that technology is given with Russia's consent and a little bit without. It's handed over to Yemen. But as I said last time, we're all friends here. There's no secrets. So there are things we don't know about. And it's just the way things work. If you're Russia and you know that you're going to piss the Israelis and the Americans off by giving this bit of technology or information or sharing intelligence with the resistance, you're obviously not going to go and publicize it, are you? So anyway, what I say at the end of the day is I'm not worried about the Russians. The problem here are the goddamn Israelis and Americans coming to the Middle East and Britain and carving up countries and making new borders. And we shouldn't forget that Sykes-Picot, this is again in 1916, included Russia. It was not just a deal between France and Britain. It included Russia. But then the Russian Revolution happened, and they overthrew the Tsar Nicholas, and then you had this deal discovered in the government archives. And I don't remember who published it. Was it Trotsky, I think? And Lenin came up with this headline, and then I think it was Trotsky who published it. And they called it something like the hold on, let me fetch it. I tweeted about it once, it was not too long ago. Yeah, it was Trotsky who published it, and Lenin called it the agreement of the colonial thieves. I mean, I think I could have come up with something just as good, if I may say so, but I love it. I love it. The agreement of the colonial thieves. There's no need to say otherwise. It's an agreement of colonial thieves. I might have called it something like imperial cake or something, but or pie. But seriously, we have to remember that a lot of people they forget this, that it included the Russians, and it's not to say something bad about the Russians. It's on the contrary to point out something about imperialism, how it's a disease, it's a cancer to the world, right? And it's bad enough with Britain and France doing this. Never mind adding a behemoth like Russia to the equation and carving up Armenia as well. This all happened because they defeated the Ottomans. You have to understand world wars in the context of like a gang. When gangs have a turf war, that's what's going on. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. Anyway, I don't know how we got to this, but I was trying to say please support the channel. So that's the end of the communique, or the end of my message. We have someone called Richards who just joined on Patreon. So I obviously owe them a crab dance. And we have another PayPal donation from Rana. Thank you very much, Rana. And there's another one from Robin who says, speaking truth to power. Thank you. And I want to say something about maybe getting me a bullhorn while I do it. So thank you, Hassan, also for joining on Patreon. Give them a round of applause with crabs in the comments. I owe them both a lovely dance. It's incoming now.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line. claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome.
Thank you.
والله في كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro.
And then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me? Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s. A number 9 large.
we got him.
Because I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Disgusting!
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway. We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Why attack Sanders? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Thank you, Riley, who said, thank you for your time and energy, Richard. Stay well. I joined your Patreon yesterday. Thank you very much. And someone is asking, what is the crab dance? Well, it's what I just played to you. I came up with it when, this was a while back. I came up with it a few years ago now. And I would just add to it every time we reach the threshold. And right now, I told you guys, every time we have 100 people subscribing on Patreon, I will play the crab dance. So that is my way to get you over to Patreon and also Rumble, right? And we have a donation here. We have a donation here on Rumble from Paul. It doesn't say anything, but thank you very much, Paul. And Makic says, NATO is losing everywhere now. They're sniffing around Bosnia and Kosovo again. Yes, absolutely. Crazy Puppet says they will trade him with Russia for the American spy in their custody convicted with physical evidence. Yes, so you're talking. Crazy Puppet was talking about the this Wall Street Journal journalist. Now, look, I don't know enough about his case. I really don't. But that is my understanding. That he was caught red-handed. Now, look, I don't think there's any comparison, no matter what happened in this person's case, to Assange. Because, first of all, the Assange case is happening in the West, and the West loves to point at everyone and say, we are the free ones. We have free press. We have human rights. We are so civilized and enlightened. So, number one, that's hypocrisy. Number two, it's been going on for 10 years. Number three, the number of charges. No one in Russia is getting 175 years, okay? So, to come and start talking about Russia and criticizing Russia, I don't want to hear it. I'm not hearing it. Number four, let's talk about the exchanges. It's true that Russia, they play, look, the first person who got swapped, Yeroshenko, I interviewed him, like 2 days after he got out, right? I interviewed him here on the channel, and he was swapped with a Marine, okay? And then the second time round, they did a swap for Brittany Griner. Now, some people say, well, the Russians, they just like to put people in jail because they need a bargaining chip or someone to exchange with. That's not true. Don't think for 1 second that, the Russian judiciary just says, yeah, this guy has an American passport, let's just throw him in jail. That's the American way of thinking. The Americans think that way. The Americans render people and kidnap them and then put them in prison for the sake of getting Americans out of prison. Do you understand? They are the ones who play with people's lives and take them from around the world and throw them in jail. And then, look at Guantanamo Bay. Look at these prisons that they have, this prison industrial complex. Russia doesn't have anything resembling that. No one does. So, this diplomatic bargaining chip business, it's an American thing. So if anyone is doing that, it's because they were forced to by the Americans to get their own people out. Exactly just like Hamas are taking hostages. Hamas are taking hostages because they have been forced to take hostages. Walid Dakhla, who died before yesterday, was in prison for 38 years. He was supposed to be released 32, 31 years ago. He was top of the list for any hostage exchange. Do you know why? Because they did the hostage deals now based on seniority. Hamas want people to be released because they've been in prison the longest. Okay? So every hostage deal, including the last one and the one before that, Walid Dakhla should have been out because he served more time than anyone. And for no reason. When you're held in prison and you're supposed to be outside, you're a hostage. Yes? When this deal says everybody goes free and you're not free, you're a hostage. So he's a hostage. He died a hostage. So it's the same thing. The Israelis force people to act like this because they are persecuting others. They hold them in jail without charge, without trial. Look at administrative detention. So you can see that same system being used by the Israelis as the Americans use. You got tons of people in jail in Guantanamo Bay, no charge, no trial, and it makes people do crazy things to get them out, to get them free. They have only themselves to blame. And again, we know this is not about the hostages. The Israelis are killing people for land. They want land, and they're killing the hostages to get the land. Going back to the Russians, the deals that the Russians did were unfair towards the Russians. Do you know why? Because when they swapped Yaroshenko, for example, that guy's done over a decade in prison. The Marine they swapped him with did not do a decade in prison. You got someone who's done more time being exchanged for somebody else who's done a fraction of the time. Brittany Griner, same thing. The sentence was lower, and the time she served of the sentence was lower. And they swapped her with Victor Bout, who did over a decade. That's when you're swapping two people, the sentences and the time served must be equal. But the Russians did the exchange to their disadvantage. But try explaining that to idiots. You know, the propaganda at MSNBC and Fox News, they don't want to talk about this. It's too complicated, right? I mean, it's just anti-Russian propaganda, anti-Iranian, anti-Chinese, anti-Arab the whole time, right? From left to right. It's true, and you know it's true. This is the problem. What can we say? What can we say? In any case, I'll just add one thing about the assassination, okay? I'll add one thing about the assassination of Haniyeh's children. Right now, by killing Haniyeh's children, what message are the Israelis trying to send? Are they saying that it's okay to go after Netanyahu's son in Miami? Are they saying that the Palestinians can go and take him out with a drone strike or, you know, shooting? Or are they saying that it's okay to go after Ben Gvir's family or, I don't know, Gallant's family? Because that's the message that they're sending. They're telling the Palestinians, we want to go after your unaffiliated family members who have nothing to do with anything. Yeah, you know, they're collateral, whatever. Today we'll call them commanders. Tomorrow they're collateral, whatever. After tomorrow, you know, the day after the terrorists, yeah, whatever. But you're killing their family. Is that really a road you want to go down on? Because up until now, the resistance have been extraordinarily patient. Every single day, Hezbollah publish videos. What are they firing at in the videos? Military assets, tanks, soldiers, drones, satellites, satellite dishes, radars, electronic warfare, surveillance, trucks. Hamas, PIJ. What are they firing at? Soldiers, tanks. Iraq, Yemen. Do you really want to go down the road where they start targeting these quote-unquote civilians, right? Which, again, don't really exist in Israel, because if every person has to go in the army, you can't really be a civilian in the army, right? You got 2 years minimum mandatory, and then you're in there from 18 to 40 years old. From your 18th birthday, you have to go to the military. Once you're done with 2 years, you have to stay in the military till you're 40 as a reservist. So you can't be a civilian in the military. That's a contradiction, okay? So you can sit there and talk about civilians in Israel all day. They don't exist unless they're a grandmother or a baby. The point being, if Netanyahu really wants to start going after people's families, the resistance can do that too. They know exactly where they are. But they did that for one day and you started whining, so I don't know. What do you want really? What are you asking for? Very dangerous game you're playing here, very dangerous. The whole aim is to anger the resistance and throw them off balance. But as I said, look at his calm air, his collected behavior when he's receiving these news. The news that his children, his 3 sons and their children, his grandchildren have been killed. Look at Haniya when he's being told that his family have been assassinated. He's extremely cool, he's calm, collected, and he goes on to check on hospital patients that have been brought in from Gaza who have been injured for one reason or another by the Israelis. So this is not someone, and the organization is not an organization that you're just gonna intimidate into giving you a yes or giving you what you want through negotiations or through threats. It's not going to work. I promise you, you're not going to see any change in policy. The deal has been the same deal since day one. We give you the hostages and you release everybody in prison. You want to add 9,000 people in the West Bank extra to the deal? Great. If you ask me, I think Hamas are offering too soft of a deal. They're offering too soft of a deal. The deal should be, you go away, you leave Palestine, and we release the hostages. Otherwise, we're at war because you stole my home, you killed my children, you stole my cousin's house, you kicked my cousins out of their homes, you made them refugees. I mean, there's nothing to lose anymore at this point. So, anyway. Chip says, Richard, back in the day when I used to watch your show, you had a Jimi Hendrix poster. If you like guitar music, please check out Jesse Jet. You're absolutely right. I still have it rolled up, and I put it somewhere, all of them for safekeeping. But I still got the Globe, and I will check them out. And I do like guitar music, of course. I don't remember what size it was. I think it was A3, something like that. But it's a nice big one, that Jimi Hendrix thing. I still have it. Chip also says you will never be able to get Yair Netanyahu out of his GIMP cage. I think he's been put over there for good reason, because Netanyahu is so afraid of him having to chip in or to be targeted. But again, I mean, they don't think dirty like the Mossad and the Shin Bet. So I just laid out those points. The resistance don't give a crap about Netanyahu's son just because he's Netanyahu's son. They don't have this thinking. Their thinking is very smart. It's not emotional. This is a tank. Tank means bad. Fire at the tank. Not, oh, that's the son of the leader. I want to make him cry at night. Dude, you make him cry by wiping out his forces. You win on the battlefield. That's how you really make him cry. His son's going to be irrelevant by that point. Anyway. Again, Ramadan Mubarak, Eid Mubarak to everybody who's celebrating, and it's funny that you had this overlap with Easter and Ramadan being so close to one another, and we talked about the Christians in the Middle East for good reason, but they're both oppressed groups, right? That's the message at the end of the day, is that it's not a religion thing except for the Israelis. The Israelis are obsessed with religion. They are extremists. Okay? The Israelis are absolutely obsessed with religion. Their whole thing is to make an ethno state. Palestinian Christians, Arab Christians are just as oppressed as Arab Muslims. And I think it's important to say that today, on the first day of Eid, and given that Easter was just last week, you know, Israel has made sure that all Syrians, and again, I'm talking about Greater Syria, I'm talking about Palestinians, I'm talking about people in Lebanon. Israel has made sure they are all oppressed. Their resources are stolen, their land is stolen, they're made to be refugees. Israel has supported Al-Qaeda against Christians in Syria, against Christians in Iraq. And then, for example, in Bethlehem, they turned Bethlehem into a concrete jungle with checkpoints and sniper towers. And then they say the Christian population has fallen. Yes, that's absolutely correct. And it's fallen because of Israel. Palestinian Christians wouldn't be in Bethlehem if they had a problem with Muslims. They were in Bethlehem until you came along, until the Israelis came along. That's the truth. So, you know, and then of course, the Israelis don't let anyone who's Christian visit the holy sites. Same thing if you're Muslim. If you're, you know, a Muslim who wants to visit Jerusalem or a Christian who wants to visit Jerusalem, the Israelis will bar you because you have the wrong passport, because you're Lebanese or you're Syrian. And, you know, then they'll say, well, it's because they don't have ties with Israel. Yes, well, for good reason, because you're on their land. I also wouldn't have ties with someone who's stealing my bedroom. What kind of stupid statement is that? The point is Israel, for security reasons, that's you know, in their mind, security, meaning bullying, they will block you from coming in because they know that they've done something wrong and that you might be pissed off at them. So that's an admission of guilt. Like, if you're going to let someone from the United States come and visit Jerusalem, but you won't let someone from Syria, why? Why won't you let someone from Syria? Because they're angry at you? Why are they angry at you? Because you stole their land? Yeah, that makes sense. So, you know, we come back to the same result at the end. Palestinian or Arab Christians in Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Palestine, they're all oppressed equally as Muslims are in these countries by America, by Israel. It's the same oppressors. And these Christian Zionists, whatever the hell that is, these people are you know, they're psychos. They belong in the nut house. I mean, you know, coming here and saying they want to cook everybody and thinking that's religious. No, it's not. And people only believe in this stuff in the West. I mean, it's not exclusively. It's not like there's no one at all. It's not mutually exclusive, but it is majoritarily in the West that they believe this stuff. You'll be hard pressed to find anyone who buys into this nonsense in the Middle East, because they know what Israel is about. And like I said, these people who believe in this in the West, you can educate them about how they're killing Christians with their support for Zionism, and they still won't care. They'll just come up with another excuse about why it's good. And then you'll get to the core of the issue, and the core of the issue is they're imperialists. And they support Israel because it's a military base for America. Okay? In any case, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. That's it from me. And please donate if you can. We have some more donations over here. This one's on PayPal from Linda. Thank you very much, Linda. Much appreciated. And thank you, Jacqueline, for joining on Patreon. I'll play you a crab dance in due course. Again, if you guys are able to, make a donation on PayPal, make a donation on Patreon. It's up to you. And if you can't, just share the videos. It's most appreciated. Thank you very much, and take care. Ma salama. Bye-bye. Eid Mubarak.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome.
Thank you.
والله في كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro.
And then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me? Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large.
we got him.
Because I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up. Get up. Get up. Get up.
Oh! Disgusting!
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Why attack Sanders? Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
A is for
All men and women created by go. You know the thing.
B is for
I'm beginning to see why your wife left you.
C is for
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
D is for
Don't worry, I'm so serious. Children, I love to hear them.
E is for
Excuse to walk by the dealer and say, no, I'm not going to be a mule. I got something to do. I got to go do boom, boom, boom.
F is for
Friend, and she's a friend. She's been my friend in and out of public life.
G is for
Go to Joe 30330.
H is for
Hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down.
I is for
I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate.
J is for
Just look at the record.
I have President Biden, Vice President Biden.
Well, I tell you what, if you look at my record and you still doubt about my commitment, then you should vote for somebody else.
K is for
Kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
L is for
The lion, dog, face, pony soldier.
M is for
Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night. The phone, make sure the kids hear words.
N is for
NATO.
O is for
The only African American woman that's ever been elected to the United States Senate.
P is for
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
R is for
Rest her soul, and although she's your mom's still alive.
S is for
Send a text to the word united.
T is for
Truth over facts.
U is for
Union workers, the UAW took incredible cuts in their future.
V is for
I'll vote for somebody else.
All right, thanks so much.
W is for
Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay.
X is for
Xi Jinping.
Y is for
And you ain't black.
Z is for
She's sleeping?
Women in our country has been classified as essential. So this is an issue.
By the way, this is my little sister Valerie, and I'm Jill's husband. Oh no, this is you switched on me. This is my wife. This is my sister. They switched on me.